Hello, my friend. I don't talk much about my research into the play of light in musically animated painting, as it is difficult to explain or relate. But it has taken up a lot of my time in reflection, speculation, mental projections, setups, and experimentations. The painting was only the visible part of my work, but that I had to redo entirely hundreds of times from the moment I discovered the basic outline of what would become the gate to ecstasy, and the enormous difficulties I discovered in my attempt to express it. And since it was positioned above the light box, I couldn't use the conventional frame that you just buy in the store, nor the canvas used by the painters that I used to use. I started painting on translucent prodigious, which turned out to be heavy, brittle, dangerous, and expensive. Then on rigid plastic sheets much less heavy, less brittle, and less expensive, but a little less bright. I put them on the box and fixed them by frames in aluminum profile that I had to order out of manufacturer instead in Vitry in the big Parisian suburb. This was not very practical and drew too heavily on my finances. Then I found some flexible plastic in rolls that I had to stretch on the frames that I had to invent. It should not be too wide, but still wide enough for that the tension does not distort it, not being able to receive a crosspiece to hold it. I was lucky enough to have a professional wood dealer right around the corner from me, which was very convenient for me, not only for making the frames and cabinets, but especially for my sound system research afterwards. Since the frame should not cast an annoying shadows on the edges of the painting when the light effect radiation, I found the following solution. I first built a frame with 30 mm flat bar on 15 mm thin glued and spray staple on the ends, on which I glued 15 mm quarter round, which reinforced the solidity and the rigidity while letting pass the light. Then I stapled the canvas on the side at first, like for conventional paintings, but soon had to staple them to the back of the frame to keep the edges smooth, which was not very easy. The use proved to be much easier and even cheaper. Later, I was introduced to the much brighter real projection canvas, which I use all the way. The light composition was another headache. After a lot of reflections, notes of my notebooks, and experiments with other paintings, I drew a plan on a tracing paper when I arranged the different points of color lights on very calculated geometrical constructions, taking into account their lighting area and the electronic animations that I intended to make them take. At first, I used electronic kits to build that I found in stores, but they proved insufficient to hold the attention long enough. I looked for a solution, and after a few attempts using mechanical means too noisy, I finally met Jean-Michel, an electronic engineer specialized in light animations. I would learn much later that he was very well known among professionals in this sector. After some trial and error, we succeeded in developing an electronic modular system that allowed me, with a certain flexibility, to animate the light shows with music in a captivating and always different way. It is thanks to this device that I finally discovered the relationship between painting, light, music, and electronics, which will allow me to pierce the mystery of the book of Revelation and to realize the ecstasium. I was drawing the location of each electronics module. There could be many of them, all specially designed. None are commercially available. I had several prints of the plane made. One was attached to the bottom of the box I had made by cutting out lights on the side for the color ray that would shoot out onto the wall. The other prints were treated with colored pencils to bring out an effect with its wiring that went from the device that controlled it to the various lamps, then leads, like imaging diodes, through the resistors to control their brightness. In a show painting, there were many different effects intertwined with each other, and it was very difficult to find one's way through the jungle of different colored wires. A real nightmare for an electronic engineer. I stapled the sockets in places, then soldered the wires connecting them. I tinted, one by one, the small lamps with a special colored varnish that I put to dry on a radiator. With some colors, like blue, I sometimes had the bad surprise to see defects in the varnish once dry. It was then necessary to erase with a special thinner and start again. Then I screwed in place the lace, hundreds and hundreds of them, making sure to follow the colors. My fingers hurt. When everything was installed, I set up the electronics ordered from the engineers beforehand. I made all the connections, and in a moment of recollection and tension, I turned on the light. Flash! Short circuit. Lights went out, a device blew up. There was a bad contact or bad connection. Where? Search sometimes long, there's times. It is arranged. I switch on again. Miracle. It works. Now, it is necessary to put in place the hundreds of covers of all types intended to control the diffusion of the light. Ouch! Covers have damaged the varnish. The lamps must be changed. When everything seems to be working, I will hang the painting on the wall, arrange the painted canvas in place, and contemplate the show while taking notes. Speed up these movements, slow down that one, to make more sensitive this relay. On the contrary, to decrease the sensitivity of that one. Change the position of some covers. Change the color of the lamps of this effect. Caution defect at this place. Move light compositions. The notes only took a few lines to write, but the execution could take hours of days of work. When everything was finished, after a few days of decanting and observation, I felt that something was wrong. Her color had to be changed there. But once realized, the balance of color did not suit me anymore, and it was necessary to change also in another place. Then, elsewhere, in a dangerous stunt, each transformation risking to cause a fatal dielectric accident. Each transformation risking to cause a fatal electric accident. The whole system was powered by 220 volts. I took a few electric shocks. It was very scary every time. All this work was very long, difficult, tiring, and expensive. When, in this research, the acoustics and the sound systems will take a preponderant place, the difficulties will increase considerably. But all the efforts was worth it. The final contemplation was such happiness.